Hi everyone, today we're here with Allison Holland, author of Raspberry Sassafras, which is a children's series about a cow that moved to the big city. Welcome Allison, how are you today?
Thank you. I'm fine. Thanks.
So what was the catalyst that made you want to write this series of books, and when did that happen?
Um, well, the ideas had been bouncing around in my head separately for a while. When my nephews were young, I had written them a story about a cow named Mr. Pepe who could fly, and the boys would go on adventures with Mr. Pepe. And then I had nieces, and when their little sister was being born, I convinced them that their parents were going to name her Raspberry Sassafras. So I had these two concepts, from separate events. And I was sitting one day and I was thinking, I should have made Mr. Pepe talk. And, a story was born. I went back and rewrote a talking cow story and named it Raspberry Sassafras because I figured I'd give the cow a very long, complicated name, and then her best friend is Jane. So just to keep Raspberry very special and just keep Jane, just a plain Jane kind of name.
Oh, that's lovely. I love the name. And the books are so cute. Was there anything that you found surprising along the way in the process of writing the books?
Well, two things mostly. It's hard. It's hard to write for kids. They're a tough audience. And if you've ever given a kid a pair of socks for Christmas, you know how honest they are about expressing their feelings. This is stupid. I don't like this. So you have to really be prepared for that, because adults will, couch things and say things nicely, but little kids, they will tell you that they don't like your stuff. So it's hard to write for them. And also, Raspberry Sassafras was my first real children's book that I've worked on. I had written short stories for my nieces and nephews. And I thought, okay, a children's book, how hard can it really be? And you have to have, keep it interesting, keep some word variety in there, make it engaging. And you have to do all this with a smaller vocabulary, shorter sentences, and you really have to dig sometimes to, how can I say this without having it be a multiple compound sentence that no little kid's going to understand? So it's tough to write at that level. And then the other thing I found out, because I illustrated the books too, is that illustrating takes far longer than writing, which I thought, since I can't draw, I'm a terrible artist. I figured I would just whip the drawings out, within a couple of days, and that just didn't happen. It takes me months to do those terrible drawings. I do a lot of erasing, a lot of going back. So yeah, that's difficult, being the illustrator too.
Wow, that's incredible. I love the way you just jumped in there and you're like, I'm going to illustrate these books myself. What made you decide to do that?
Well, I had a picture in my head of what Raspberry would look like. So once I had that, once I knew what I wanted Raspberry to look like, I'm the only one who can do that. I didn't think anybody else would get it right. Plus, you have to pay illustrators, and I'm a starving artist. So
yeah, that's true. It's difficult to impart one's vision to an illustrator and have them come up with exactly what you want.
Exactly. Yes.
So you mentioned feedback from your audience. Where would you get this feedback from children? Was this just family, or did you have like book signings?
It's usually the parents relaying me what their kids said, and at this point, mostly family and friends. A few people on Facebook who just come back and said, "Oh, my kid loved it," or he wanted to know more. So I've gotten good children's reviews so far, at least as interpreted through the parents.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful concept, and I'm going to keep the Sassafras series next to my bed for bedtime reading. Go back to childhood.
Yes.
So the last question is, who are your readers and what do you want to tell them about the book? What I mean by that is, who specifically amongst the population of children would you say this book is targeted at, or is it just for every child out there?
Well, children's books are divided up into some, pretty defined categories. There's picture books, there's chapter books, there's young adult. So mine doesn't really fit into one of the categories. It's got pictures, but it's got too many words for a picture book, not enough words for a chapter book. So I just had to guesstimate that the ages would probably be between 4 and 8 or 4 and 9. But I also try to write it keeping in mind that somebody might be reading this to a kid. So trying to keep the reader entertained too. So throwing in, just a little bit of humor for the adult that's reading the book to the kid. So my audience is really, any kid reading it probably up to about 9 years old and a person reading it to them. So kids and adults.
That's great. And Allison's book is available on Amazon, or her series of books. And I believe you have a fourth coming out soon. Is that correct?
I do. As soon as I'm finished with the illustrations. So months from now, my terrible artwork will be upon the world.
You can find out more about the existing series as well as the upcoming book on her website, raspberrysassafras.com. And we wish you all the best with these books and so much success in the future. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.